Hi guys, right, I'm just stripping down my old hydraulic press now, getting ready for building the upgraded version. Obviously I made this when I didn't really know an awful lot of what I was doing. During my apprenticeship it was one of my final projects. Um, it's just not very good. Welds are a bit crappy, not really, it doesn't seem to affect it. It's always done worked well for what it needed it to do, but it's just little niggling things. Obviously the tooling's offset, made this sort of really crude tooling from Hardox, and this was an old chisel that I cut in half. Like again, nothing's precision. The holes have drilled bigger for the bolts to fit. The thing's wonky. The holes don't all line up, obviously. Just pretty poor execution. So what I'm doing is just taking it all apart. I'm going to remove the motor and obviously the pump, and I'll mount them upright on the next one on the I-beam. That's going to be like a rather than a horizontal setup, it's going to be vertical on the back, save space. So I won't need as big a trolley to move it around, save on floor space in the workshop. And I'm going to have it foot operated as well, on like a treadle. So yeah, I'm going to have to take off the spool valve and work how I'm going to mount that. This piece here. What else is there? Fuel tank, or oil tank even, sorry, not the fuel tank. I'm going to make it small. I think I'm going to go for a piece of box section, 100 by 100 box section, 3mm wall, and just cap it top and bottom. And reuse the oil cap. Because God knows where I went. Well, I went for a bigger tank, obviously, so it allowed the oil to cool as it was going around the system. But to be honest, when you're using it, it's not running an awful lot of time. It's between heats, and then knock it off again. So I'll probably just go with a smaller tank as well. And I'm going for a single ram. But like I say, you'll see on the new model as I'm building it. I'm going to do a few videos. So just thought I'd show you what it looks like before I take it all apart. Right then, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, just labeling up the hoses. So you've got the pickup from the tank here, the oil tank. That's 1/2 inch that goes to the pump. And then you have from the pump, that will feed up to the spool valve, this pipe here. If you can see that very well, give me that glove. This one goes, so it picks up from the pump, from the base of the tank. And it'll go from this pipe, which is 3/8 I think. Into the spool valve, yeah, definitely that's 3/8, into the spool valve. But we know obviously that operates the rams, and then you have the return back from the opposite of the spool valve, which is larger again, which is another 1/2 inch. It goes back to tank there, which is this one here. So I'm just labeling it all up so I can obviously re-pipe it once it's in its new position. Okay, right then. You guys, just looking how I'm going to change some of these things. Obviously stuff didn't go quite to plan when I first made it. As to be expected, you make stuff and you realise how you could have made it better. Which is always why it's always good to do a few test runs with things. You make them and then you find ways to improve them. The tank's never really been sealed. It's always had a slow leak on it. I pressure tested it, filled it with water and everything, obviously when I first made it in the bath. And yeah, not great. As you can see, it's quite a bit of oil over the years. I mean, it's a very small leak, but over the years it just seemed to sit in a pool of it. So the way I did it is I mounted the motor on top of the tank, obviously here, on its feet. And then the cush gear, this pump originally was off, I think it was like a lift pump for a truck, like a single acting ram, like a tipper. Anyway, so I took that out. It was like a unit, it was a DC, run off a DC motor. So I stripped it all out apart. Took the pump, that's a fixed displacement pump. Basically it's just a constant speed. You can't change the speed of it. So the flow is what it is. At least, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And the cush gear, I just obviously aligned these, made these simple brackets, which is just a bit of flat with another piece of flat. Obviously, it picks up, the motor picks up and it mounts to the tank. So what I think I'll do for the next one, I'll just use up 2 pieces of angle and copy the bolting patterns for the pump. Same kind of principle, but upright. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So seems a shame to be taking it apart. It seems like it's something I made, obviously dead proud of at the time. But you know, as you do things, you get more experience, you get better at stuff. So it's, I suppose it's a good thing in a way. Something I'm looking forward to, be able to do bits on the lathe and use the mill. So I'll try and document as much as I can. Okay, I'll speak to you in a bit. Right, bye. Okay, now we're recording. This is the first for me trying to make a YouTube video. Obviously I've done them in the past, just sort of throwing them together. I'm trying to actually make a go of it now. It's going to be my first official video, or first official build, making an hydraulic press. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Currently just putting the motor onto the body, the frame. I've already mounted the motor bracket. Now I just need to work out the brackets for the pump. So I'm going to use a bit of angle iron. It's just a basic fixed displacement pump. You can pinch this off an old lift truck. So that wants to be somewhere like that. Little bits of angle to hold that on. Okay. Let's see. Wherever I put that. There we are. This is kind of weird filming yourself. Okay, so 130. Two of those. Okay, so we've just made the mount for the pump using a bit of angle iron. I was going to record it, but it seems kind of pointless. So we can kind of see how it's connected up. So obviously connected here with this crush gear. It's just basically a cushion. You know, a piece of rubber between the two. It's like a linkage. Almost like a bit of like a shock absorber. Okay, moving along with the build. I've just welded the plates that are going to be holding the top end of the ram. I put these bosses on which are turned. So basically they're the exact same diameter as the pin. It's a bit warm still. Get the other one. There's a pin, 35mm. So basically, yeah, I've ground these bosses here, just point at them. So I've got a decent amount of penetration on them. Tacked them in all corners, ground the tacks back, and then obviously fully welded all the way around. And I've put the motor on for the pump. That's now made and tacked on. So I'm just working on the other side. Okay, I'll come back to you when I've done a bit more. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere now. You can see here now we've made, or I've made, not we. This is weird. Okay, so here we're up to on the build. We've got the ram mounted. Picked up on the pins at the back. Let it focus. So here's the bosses you can see that are welded in. These pins are a flush fit there. This is going to be obviously fully welded all the way top and bottom, the bottom end as well. We'll probably have a supporting plate on this end here. And a shim, so this ram sits against it almost, so it's acting like a brace as well. I've not decided whether to have bosses on the outside of here, like collars, to give a bit more support on the pins, or whether to cut them flush and have them held in with the washers or something, not decided yet. And obviously the runner here, I already pre-made this. It's just the 15mm flat bar which I've used for the rest of the body. And it's shimmed with a piece of 8mm, be 30 either side. And I've just milled this to, this is like 7.5mm. So I just took this to my mill, I just took, you know, there is the slightest cut off it, just to allow it so it's a bit, not complete tolerance, but it's enough wobble in it, play in it for it to move, but not to allow it to sort of have too much play in it, essentially. Now what I'm going to do is grind. I've got a matching pair of these plates here, and these are going to sit like that. Sit on the on the runner, as it was. Don't know what you call that. So I'll put a root grind in these, clean them up, weld them up as it's a solid 30mm flat bar then. And the same again for what it'll be pressing against, and then work out how the tooling is going to be held in that. It's not a great image, sorry. But it's obviously on its side. But that's where we're up to at the moment. I'm going to try and film some more now while I'm working on it, see if that's any better. Let me know what you think. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I've just welded these plates together, one last run to do. See here, it's done on a hobby welder, 180 amps, so it's not ideal, but it seems to be doing the job. Obviously this is this part here, it's just there for reference. That's going to be the bottom one, but this is going to be the top running part. There we are. So that's a good grind either side, so you've got plenty of penetration there. Clean it up and tack it onto that and make sure everything's moving freely. And carry on with the build. Okay, right, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I've just jigged this up now, so it's tacked in place. Here's a large piece of angle. I think this is 100x100x8 angle iron. I milled it on my milling machine to try and face it off to make it into like an angle plate. It's not quite 90 degrees, so I've just shimmed it here with a piece of about 1 mil or something. So it's at bang on 90 now. And I've obviously tacked that then onto the runner. A couple of tacks, one at the bottom up here, and obviously the same on the other side. So I think I'll make the oil tank now and get it all piped up and test it and make sure it's all working how I want it to. And then obviously, if everything's good, I can fully weld it up. Okay then, I'll speak to you in a bit. Bye. Okay, here's what we're up to with the press so far. So the ram's mounted, it's on the runner. The motor mounts on the back, obviously the pump mount as well. You see it very well there. It's just all tacked for now. I'm just about to make the tank for the oil. For that I'm just using 2 pieces of box section, 100x100, 3mm wall. A cap off the top and bottom. An oil cap here off the old tank, so I'll just stick on the top there. Obviously I'm going to pick up port on the bottom, which is going to be 1/2 inch. And the return as well. So I'm going to get started with that now. And then hopefully tomorrow I should be able to test the pump. And make sure everything's working as it should. And I'll work out obviously the full extension, where the press is going to land, so I can work out how big the tool and everything needs to be. Right, well I'll crack on with this and I'll let you know when it's all made. Here we are, I'm starting making the tank from them 2 bits of box section. Now I've cut the bottom half of either side out, and if you can see, it'll focus. Because I decided this inner piece can act as a form of baffle plate for the oil. So when you're moving it around, it's not all splashing about. But obviously it can all go into the same container. And I've put my pickup pipe here. It's just a 1/2 inch male adapter that's welded in. And obviously the base is all fully seam welded up underneath. And then I've welded up, focus, there we are, on both sides. With the stool. And I've just got the top to weld up. Again, for the return hose, should be another 1/2 inch male adapter to be welded in, and then obviously the oil filler cap. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, I doubt this will pick anything up. I'm just welding up the oil tank, so I'll just do my last run and see if it comes out on the camera. Looks likely it won't. left now to weld the main male adapter on top, the 1/2 inch and the filler cap. Okay, I'll come back to you when they're done. Okay, here's what I'm up to so far. I got a bit carried away. I was still not used to the whole filming everything. And I knocked up this table for it to stand on, obviously. Finished off the oil tank. Again, that's just 2 pieces of the box section, the oil cap. I've just filled it with water for the time being, just to see if I have any leaks. So I'll address them tomorrow. So yeah, that's where we're up to so far. Hopefully get it piped up tomorrow, put some oil in and just see how the action works. And then work out how I'm going to do the foot pedal mechanism off the spool valve. But yeah, so far so good. It's pretty compact, it's very nice and narrow. It's just over 1 foot wide. Should be ideal. Okay, I'll come back to it tomorrow. I'll see you then.